We will call the February 17th meeting to order at 7:30. And Amy, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. DeLumo, Mr. Manel, Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes, we're here.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Here.
Mr. Mamie, Mrs. Tallarico,
Here.
Mr. DeGennaro,
Here.
Mr. Puglielli.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of
of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
And if you got that part wrong, Shawanda, that would have been a problem.
Okay, I will read the chair statement. The notice requirements of the open public meeting law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster and filed in the office of the Township on July 16th, 2021. The board policy is that no new cases will be started after 10 o'clock p.m. and no new testimony taken after 10:30 p.m. In addition, the applicant will be limited to 45 minutes of testimony. All meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios, and Channel 77 on Cablevision. And should I continue going to the minutes or just continue through?
Yeah. Whatever it says.
Please.
Okay, and for the minutes, December 16th, 2021, if someone will offer,
I'll offer.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
You
Amy, will
weren't-
you-
Mr. Van Wagner,
I can't.
you weren't there.
All right. Nobody was speaking up. I just wanted to get.
I
it
know,
all.
I know.
I'll move it if I was there.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
No,
Mr.
that's
DJ.
all right.
Amy, will you please call the roll?
Yes, but Mr. Fuller, you weren't there
I
either.
was there either, right?
I can make, I'll make a motion then.
I got it. I'll second.
So Mr. DeGennaro, and then who seconded?
Victor Ashkenazi.
Nope. not-
Oh, December. Sorry.
Can I second?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
All right. Do you think, Mark, would this be an appropriate time for us to have the
Yes.
discussion with regard to chair and vice chair?
Yes, well, I guess for the public's knowledge, our chairman, James Worrell, has retired and moving to warmer climate, I believe. And right now, Shawanda is our vice chair and acting for tonight, but someone from the board needs to nominate a chair and a new vice chair.
It's right from Mark. You know that I would make a motion to nominate Ms. Shawanda Beal as chairperson of our zoning board of adjustment.
We need a second.
I'll
I
second.
would second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. We need to do a roll call to appoint Shawanda as our chairperson.
Okay, Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGennaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Do I ask Mrs. Beal?
Mhm.
She can vote for herself, sure.
Okay, Mrs. Beal? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Okay, so does anybody thought about it, want to nominate someone for vice chair?
I would like to nominate Mr. Van Wagner for vice chair.
Richard, do you want to do that?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
All right. Are there any other nominations? No, sometimes Richard, because of your work schedule. That's the only thing I thought.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I mean, that's vice chair, I think I can handle. with this
Okay.
guy.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing
Yes, no.
none, they would be closed and a roll call for our vice chairman.
Okay. Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
No, yes,
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenero,
Yes.
and Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Congratulations, I believe. And also for everyone that is an alternate, what's going to happen is all the alternates will move up one spot. And there'll be an alternate, I believe, 4 appointed, but that will be by the mayor and council at the next meeting. And we'll have that discussion at our next meeting on March 14th or 17th. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Now, Shwanda, we have the resolutions to be memorialized. They were all voted. There were no negatives. They were all voted in the positive at the last meeting. So that if you want to read them, they could all be moved as one. And when Amy calls the roll call, it'll be just anybody who was here at the meeting of in January would be eligible to vote.
Okay. So we have the following resolutions for memorialization. Kenneth Greenstein, Block 22, Lot 90, 204 West Morgan Avenue. D2 variance approval, bulk variance approval. Brielle Avenue LLC, Block 184, Lots 1 and 4, 1304-06, Brielle Avenue, Ocean. D1 variance approval, site plan and minor subdivision approval, bulk variance approval. 3500 Sunset LLC, Block 43, Lots 1 and 2, 3500 Sunset Avenue, D1 and D3 variance approval, site plan approval, bulk variance approval. 335 Roosevelt Avenue LLC, Block 19, Lot 3, 335 Roosevelt Avenue, Ocean, bulk variance approval. Omer and Shai Kraler, Block 162, Lot 16, 41 Stonehenge Drive, Ocean, bulk variance approval. Jennifer Cunningham, Block 37.02, Lot 4, 8 Allmark Terrace, Ocean, bulk variance approval. And
We need someone to move those.
I'll move all those.
Second,
I'll second.
okay, Amy, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenero,
Yes.
and Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, the following cases will be carried to March 17th, 2022 on Zoom with the following meeting ID and passcode. Passcode Ashkenazi, Block 11.01, Lot 3, 1036 Norwood Avenue in Ocean. Cordoba Ocean LLC, Block 205, Lot 2 and 3, 1309 Herbert Avenue, 1312 Allenhurst Avenue, Ocean. Seaview Corporate Park, Block 149.01, Lot 1.01, 2603 Route 66, Ocean. Sean Realty LLC, Block 141, Lot 3, Route 66, Asbury Avenue, Ocean. Sorora Land Development, Block 22, Lot 85 and 85.01, 280 Norwood Avenue, Ocean. Sion Palachi, Block 40, Lot 30, 504 Roselle Avenue in Ocean. Daniel Srower, Block 46, Lot 10, 107 Parker Avenue in Ocean.
all of those The cases will be carried without the necessity of any further public notice, either in the paper or in the certified mailings to the surrounding property owners. I believe there's a possibility that C and Palacia may have to be renoticed. I'm not sure, Mr. Kirk, we have to review that application
We do.
because it may require additional notice for additional
Additional
relief.
variances.
Yeah, for additional relief. But the remainder of all those will be carried without further notice to the meeting of March 17th.
Okay, and.
I'm done.
Will someone offer?
We just, you don't have to move
Oh,
that.
don't have to move that, okay.
We just announced that to be carried.
Okay.
It doesn't require a vote.
Okay, so then our first case is Carol Doyle, Block 122, Lot 7, 18 Wanamassa Point Road in Ocean, Zone R6. This is an application to install 2 AC condensers within the side yard setback on a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling. And Ms. Doyle, I'm sorry, are you present?
Yes, I am. Hi,
Okay,
good evening.
good evening. And I believe she has to be sworn in, correct? Okay. Will you raise your right hand and do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
I'm having trouble with my Zoom here.
Is it okay to continue?
No,
Oh, okay.
yeah, but I can see you. I'm not getting the big picture. I'll take care of it.
Ms. Doyle, will you please tell us about your request?
Yes, I am installing, or I intend to install 2 heat pump systems to replace the old furnace that was in our basement that was not working anymore. We had a normal size air conditioner outside on the property. And now with the heat pump system, we have very narrow units on the side of the house.
Okay. And I would like, I'm sorry, was that it?
I'm happy to answer any questions. It's a high efficiency unit, very quiet, does not disturb my neighbor's property. And we had looked at, my architect's on the line, Tom Lavin, and we looked at many different options for putting them elsewhere. And they were hardship in every case. So we couldn't install them anywhere else on the property.
Okay. And Mr. Higgins, will you provide us your report? You're muted.
Jim, that's a lovely report, but we cannot hear you.
Sometimes that's an advantage, I think. But it requires, the units require a side yard setback. Accessory structures 3 feet in height or less must maintain a 10-foot setback. And 1 foot exists currently and 2 feet are proposed. The 2 units are actually smaller than the 1 existing unit that's being replaced. And I have a question, Ms. Doyle. Are they Daikin units? Do you know?
Jim,
Hiking? What is
what does Daikin mean? Or are you talking about a brand?
That's a brand. It's a brand.
No,
was
it's
a brand.
Okay. Okay.
Mitsubishi.
The only reason I asked is because I have one of those and it's very, very quiet. But there's no other place to put them. I think it's an improvement. I don't have any problem at all with this application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matlack?
You, Madam Chair. Yeah, I was looking for some testimony on the location. It looked like there were several different options on the plan, and it looks like the applicant provided some testimony. Can I ask, is there any sort of like screening or buffering from the neighbor's house or the front yard?
There are hedges. There are hedges in place, so they don't see them.
Okay. And that was kind of helps. My other concern is noise. You know, a hedgerow will help to dampen any noise. So I don't really have any issues with it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
I just have one. I mean, just so you're replacing these with quieter ones and less obtrusive ones.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
And it was, I said it twice.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the board? Okay, any questions from the public? Not seeing any questions. If we can have a motion to close the public hearing, or sorry, Mark, you're muted.
What was that?
Okay, I just, in addition to questions, you want to ask if there's any comments from the public.
Oh, sorry. Any comments from the public?
Madam Chair, I motion that we close the public hearing.
Okay, is there a
Second.
Okay.
Second.
And Amy, will you please call the roll?
Yes,
Just to
Mr.
confirm, you'd like to call calling rule Mercado.
Sorry.
Mobile.
iPad. Sorry.
Yes.
please continue.
That's okay. Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenero,
Yes.
and Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, so that carries. And Mark, will you please just summarize for us?
Yes, they just need a variance for a side yard setback,
Okay,
which it requires 10 feet. Right now, one exists, 2 feet is proposed, so they're actually moving it. They're improving the existing condition and the units are smaller. And I assume more efficient and quieter. And they'll be screened, so they need a side yard setback.
I'll make a
motion
motion.
for a positive resolution.
is there a
Se-
second?
Second. Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenero,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Best of luck, Ms. Doyle.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
The second case, Morris Misri, Block 26, Lot 7, 17 Roslyn Drive, Ocean, Zone R4. This is an application to keep an existing bedroom on the technical third story of a split level, accessed by permanent stairs. And is, I believe, Mr. or Ms. Misri present?
Mystery. Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Misri? Yes,
Yes.
okay. Sorry, the little Hollywood Squares is going around.
It's okay.
Okay. and,
Happens all the time.
State your name and your address.
Morris Mystery, 17 Rosalind Drive, Oakhurst.
Okay, and will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Will you please tell us about your request?
Yes.
Just wait a second. Shawanda, it may be easier if we have Jim, we mark the packet. Let's mark the packet as B1,
Yes.
okay? And I think we need a B1 in the last application also, Amy?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Apologies.
No. So you're doing a great job, Shawanda. Don't worry about it. And maybe Jim could give his report first. It'll probably set the stage a little easier.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
I'll read this one. The applicant's requesting to maintain an existing bedroom on the technical third story of a split level home. The ordinance defines story as that portion of a building that is accessed by an exterior doorway or permanently installed stairs and is included between the upper surface of a floor and the upper surface of the floor or roof next or directly above. Since the existing bedroom is accessed by permanently installed stairs, it's considered to be a third story. The site's an approximate 12,900 square foot parcel that is occupied by, got some feedback there, occupied by a building, by single family dwelling. It contains 5 bedrooms, including the subject bedroom on the 3rd floor. Variances that are required is a number of stories. The ordinance permits a maximum of 2 stories, and the existing residence is technically 3 stories in height. Split level houses are difficult to fit into the definition of stories in the ordinance. While the existing bedroom and permanent stairs technically create a 3rd story, they do not increase the height of the structure. The ordinance permits a height of 35 feet. The existing structure is clearly much lower than that, and it is not possible to recognize that there's a 3rd story from viewing the residence from outside. Off-street parking minimum spaces, the ordinance requires 2 parking spaces per single-family dwelling, the New Jersey Residential Site Improvement Standards. And for new board members, that's a document that was put out by the state a number of years ago that seems to supersede local zoning on a number of issues, including parking. That requires 3 parking spaces for a 5-bedroom residence. The site has a driveway that can accommodate 1 off-street parking space. It should be noted that the survey shows a garage, but that garage has been converted to a residential space, apparently well before the applicant purchased the property in 2019. This condition is typical of many residences in the immediate area of the site. Rosalind Drive is a fairly wide street, and on-street parking is typical. The paved width of the street can accommodate parking on both sides with ample room between the parked cars to allow for 2-way traffic and emergency vehicle access. Consequently, I do not have a problem with the granting of this variance. Basically, the parking situation, they inherited it from a prior owner.
Thank you. Mr. Matlack?
Yeah, the only concern I had was regarding the use of the property. The application included a certificate of occupancy from 2019, and it listed several tenants on this certificate. So I was just looking for some testimony regarding whether this was to be used as a rental property or if this is just a single family home. Other than that, that was my only concern, and Jim already discussed the parking, so I don't have any other issues.
Okay, Mr. Misri, if you can address the questions, please.
Yes, I rented out the house 3 years ago when I purchased it. The first 2 years, we utilized the 4 bedrooms in the house. This year, there was a request to have an extra tenant from one of the girls to use the upstairs bedroom, and in which, obviously we're requesting a variance for the use of this bedroom upstairs.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about the application?
No, just simply requesting a variance for the attic bedroom. There is an attic with a, I guess you can call like a ramp and an access door to access the full attic itself. It's a regular bedroom, full, I think there's a king bed and a 2 windows, air conditioner, etc. So that's my request tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board or comments?
I just have a question. Is the separate bedroom, that's simply a bedroom, there's no other facilities there, it functions as a single family residence, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and do you occupy the residence?
I do in the summer. Right now, I'm having a daily fight with my wife to move back to New Jersey. My wife's a former, New Jerseyan who lived there her whole life. Now we're in New York, but hopefully we'll get back to live in the house full time in the next year or 2, as soon as my daughter graduates high school. So hopefully I'll be back as a full-time tenant, full-time livable tenant.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
So I have a question. The attic was made into a bedroom?
No, it's existing.
So that room was existing?
Yes. Yes, I've been renting out the house each summer when I purchased it to compensate for the mortgage, and we got approved with COs the first 2 years, and then this year the new inspector found it to be a possible issue and wasn't sure on whether to issue the CO or not. So here we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So along with that, our vote tonight does not say this vote is not giving you another person to be added to the amount of people that stay there in the winter, right?
Yes. Correct.
Well, technically it
No.
does. Joe.
It does.
It
You can have
does.
fun.
Not since, but as opposed to last year, that space was okayed by a CO, and the year before that it was okayed by a CO.
Correct.
That testimony is.
But those COs only contain 4 tenants.
Are you asking me or I'm not sure?
The
I
COs
was
that you
asking
presented
both, actually. So Mark
in
said
our
your
packet,
CO was for 4 tenants, and now the CO will be for 5 tenants. To get 5 tenants, you need to have us approve that room, right?
Correct.
So we are okaying the additional tenant.
So is this a single family home or is it a group
Yes.
rental?
Single family home.
But there are 4 or 5 tenants?
There are
Are there separate leases for each person?
it's one master lease and all the girls sign it. And then their parents also sign a guarantee against the house if there's any damages. So right now, yes, there are, each bedroom is utilized as a rental in a master lease.
Okay, but just to ask as a code issue, those, everyone can flow freely through. They're not individually locked. It's not, they don't have.
Correct. It's a regular, yeah, it's all open.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Could I just real quick, I'm sorry, Shawanda, but so if it was pre-existing, you had 5 tenants, so the CO would only allow 4, but they didn't, I mean, it just was overlooked. So, or is there an increase in tenancy now? I'm not following.
Oh, no, it's always been 5 tenants. The first 2 years were approved with the CO. They came, they inspected, they looked upstairs on the 3rd floor. They saw the attic bedroom. They had no issues with it. And then when the new inspector came, I think it was in September, October, she noticed that it was an attic bedroom and wasn't sure of the, approval of whether I can rent it or not. So here we are.
Okay, I get it, because Mark, you mentioned something about 4 tenants, but I don't really think it's that significant to my decision. So, okay, thank you.
yeah, no, just in 2019, it was approved for 4 tenants, that's all.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, any comments or questions from the public? Okay, seeing none. Okay, seeing none, we can have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll
make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mark, will you summarize, please?
He needs 2 variances. One is for a number of stories by using the additional 5th bedroom in the quote unquote attic area, but it's only on the attic on the smaller side, I guess, of the house because it's a split level. He needs that variance, although he does not exceed the height requirement for a 3rd story. And the off-street parking, there is only 1 space available in the driveway. He's required 3. But Jim advises that the street can accommodate the additional cars. I would assume that there's going to be 5 cars if there's going to be 5 tenants, but the street width would accommodate all that, Jim?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's the 2 variances he needs.
Okay, and will someone offer a positive resolution?
Offer a positive resolution.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And best wishes, Mr. Mystery.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to our 3rd case, Rebecca Weiner, Block 1361, Lot 9, 1309 Wickapeco Avenue, Ocean, Zone R6. This is an application to expand and repave a pre-existing non-conforming driveway, apron, and curb with the necessary variance for driveway setback. And Ms. Weiner, are you present?
Yes.
Okay, will you state your name and your address, please?
Rebecca Weiner, 1309 Wickapeco Drive in Wanamassa.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Higgins, will you please give us your?
Mark the packet as
Oh,
B1.
sorry. That daggone packet. B1, please, Amy.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, again, it's dated February 8th. The applicant proposes to expand and repave a pre-existing non-conforming driveway. The site is a 50-foot wide through lot that extends from Wickapeco Drive to Vina Drive. It previously received variances for expansion of the residence to include a second story and setbacks of various accessory structures. The existing driveway is a narrow gravel driveway that is accessed from Vina Drive and extends into the site at a slight angle. The curb cut accessing the site is approximately 15 feet wide and only 11 feet is opposite the subject site. The remaining 4 feet is opposite lot 10 to the south. So basically the curb cut straddles the property line. The applicant proposes to widen the apron to accommodate the new driveway. The proposals provide a paved driveway that is perpendicular to the street, is 18 feet wide to match the width of the garage, which has a non-conforming side setback of 0.7 feet. The application states the driveway setback will be 0 feet, but the plan shows it to be approximately 1 foot. This should be clarified. The proposed 18-foot wide driveway directly abuts an existing 3-foot high picket fence that encloses the backyard of the residence. Given the unusual shape of the driveway as it exists, it makes sense to improve it and widen it. Absent any engineering issues, I have several concerns. There are 2 very large trees located on the property line where the expanded driveway is proposed. The ordinance requires that driveways be a minimum of 5 feet from the side property line. Consequently, a C variance is necessary for the driveway setback. In order to grant a C variance, it's necessary for the applicant to demonstrate that there is a practical and undue hardship associated with the property and that the benefits of granting the variance, meaning one or more of the purposes of the land use law are advanced, substantially outweigh any detriments. I do not see any hardship associated with the site. More specifically, the lot width conforms to the ordinance requirement. While it seems to make sense to locate the driveway to match the garage door is located on the right side facing of the garage, so that there's no functional reason or benefit to line the driveway up with the left side of the garage. It would make much more sense to provide the required 5-foot side yard setback, which would give the trees a chance to survive. Relocating the driveway to be set back 5 feet would allow a 14-foot wide driveway that is over 40 foot deep, so 2 cars could fit in it in addition to the space in the garage. It should also be noted that with the current proposal, an 18-foot wide driveway would likely result in 2 cars parked side by side, and the car closest to the 3-foot high fence would be very close to the fence. It would make much more sense to move the driveway 5 feet from the property line, relocate the fence, and provide a conforming 18-foot driveway. This will reduce the width of the fenced-in yard from 30 feet to 25 feet. That's assuming a 1-foot area between the driveway and the fence to allow a car door to be open, which is still a reasonably wide rear yard. I think the issue is whether the board wants to assure that those 2 trees that are mature trees are going to be saved, or whether they want to have them removed.
Thank you. Mr. Matlack?
There, I didn't really have too many concerns with, from an engineering standpoint. The driveway should be pitched to direct surface runoff towards Vina Avenue, towards the right of way and away from the adjacent property. And all of the construction of the curb, sidewalk, driveway apron in the right of way should comply with the township standards. And I agree with Jim about the trees, that if they can be saved, they should.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Weiner, will you tell us about your request and if you can address the concerns regarding the saving the trees there, the mature trees?
Yeah. So my application is proposing to widen the apron of the pre-existing non-conforming stone driveway that's accessed on Vina Ave. The driveway apron is currently pretty small compared to other driveways in the neighborhood and is angled to the right, which leaves a lot of unused space between where the apron currently ends and where the picket fence currently ends. So we'd like to create a paved driveway that's aligned with the end of the north side of the garage and runs parallel down the picket fence line. To address and clarify the comments from the planner's report regarding the setback on the south side of the garage and the property, we definitely don't have any intention to remove or destroy the large trees that are on the property line. So as a solution, we'd like to ask for the driveway to begin lining up with the width of the garage, which is 18 feet wide and has a non-conforming setback of 0.7 feet, which is noted in the report, and extend down in a straight line for about 15 feet, which is in front of the first big tree, and then angle over to the right and follow the pre-existing angle or line all the way down to the apron that's there now. And I have a drawing on a survey to better explain that if needed. But overall, we just think that this would be an improvement to the house and to the neighborhood. It would provide us with off-street parking. It'd be a fix to the hardship of us hopping the curb every time we pull in the driveway. And it's just an improvement.
Thank you for that. Mr. Higgins, does that, I know we don't have a rendering of that.
I think I understand what she's saying. I don't have a big problem with that. And just so the board understands, I do think it's important, particularly in this area of the township, to get the cars off the street and put them in driveways. That's one of the concerns in interviewing the police and the rescue, fire and rescue people when I'm preparing the master plan, as they're concerned about cars on the streets in these areas of the township where the streets are narrow. So I think getting the cars off the street into a driveway is a bonus. I understand what she is saying. My only concern there would be, if you pull two cars in the driveway, can you actually get out of the passenger side of the one car? Because it's going to be right up against the fence, unless the fence is going to be relocated. And that's really a problem for her. I don't think that's a major planning or zoning problem, but it's something that they need to consider.
I didn't understand. I could be stupid, but I have to write it up. We're gonna
Can I share
go,
my screen?
yeah, go ahead.
It says it's disabled.
Amy has to set that up.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Hey, Shawan, if I could ask, just Mark a question, maybe procedurally, because I think I know what you're about to ask, Mark, but couldn't it, after this, if we were comfortable enough, could we approve it conditioned upon, Jim's later approval?
Yeah, we can figure something out. See, this is what she wants to do.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, just seen it.
I understood from what she said. I understood this is what she wanted to do.
Okay, so let's label this as A1, I guess, which is driveway configuration. Is that a 5-foot indent and coming down? Is that what I'm seeing?
It looks to be.
Yeah.
It's about a quarter of the width or so.
What would be the purpose of that? Why?
To get the pavement away from the trees, to save the trees, because that's where the trees.
Oh, I know that. What's the purpose of the extra stuff in front?
So there's actually room where we could fit a car there and we can put our garbage cans there, and it just makes more space in the driveway. Currently, it's like dirt. It's not useful space at all. And aesthetically, to align the driveway up with the garage, that just looks better. Rather than lining it up with the door.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the fence, though, that's there now, right?
No, the fence is on as you're looking at that, where she has the cursor now on the
Yeah,
right.
this is the fence.
Surrounding the yard. And my concern is you have cars side by side, people aren't gonna be able to get out of the passenger side without hitting the fence. But again, it's not a public place. It's something that they would have to deal with on their own.
Okay, so the width across would be 18 feet you said 15 feet in depth?
Correct.
And then it's going to be and then it's going to be
And then it would follow the existing
Yeah,
line.
but what is that dimension approximately?
I don't know.
It looks to be about 4 feet.
Okay.
But what-
Approximately 4 feet.
If the board is inclined to approve it, it could be approved upon a condition of them submitting a plan that's properly dimensioned.
Yeah, okay.
And then Ben and I could both look at it.
Yeah, so if it's a 4-foot indent, then maybe you have about 14 feet left at that, that, I guess you would call it a pinch point there.
Yes.
Which is not enough room for 2 cars to line up side by side, so.
Nor
that
is 15 feet, is it? Is 15 feet enough to get in?
Yeah, a parking space is 9 feet wide.
No, the other way. What's the length?
The length, it would be tight, very tight, depending upon the type.
She's not gonna be able to get 2 cars next to each other.
No, you wouldn't be able to get another car on the left, top left corner where she was talking about putting the garbage cans. But there's enough room to stack 2 cars and have enough room to open the doors, along that fence line.
Yeah.
A paved driveway would certainly be an improvement, so.
Yeah.
I just want everyone to know that we're voting on a driveway, not on the exterior storage of garbage.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one. What's on the other side of that chain link fence in that just white? Is there a building or is there grass or?
It's a
what's-
yard.
Yeah.
It's the backyard of the house.
Okay.
Back
And
side
the
of the
chain-
house in the
And
back.
just so you're aware, I don't believe the chain link fence is there now.
It's
I
a
think
it's a picket fence.
Yeah, it runs along the red line.
There's pictures in the packet of this that shows
Yeah, I can-
exactly what shows.
This is what it looks like now.
Yeah.
So you can see where the driveway angles, there's all this space that can be used.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
And will that exceed our maximum permitted?
My suggestion would be that they actually provide a plan that locates the 2 trees, and then either Ben or I could look and decide where the driveway would be most appropriate. Because I'm looking at the trees now, they may be on the adjacent property. And it may be that the driveway could be even closer to the property line without damaging the trees, particularly since that driveway is there now and it's compacted. So the tree's roots are already compacted from the use of the driveway.
So you're suggesting that we carry it until the applicant give us an as-is survey in that area?
Or that if the board is inclined to approve it, that's approved subject to Ben and I approving the exact location of the driveway.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That way,
Any other?
anything that can reduce the time the board is spending on these things. with
Yeah, I
the
understand.
Boards, yeah.
Yeah, and Mark, it's Rich again. I was just going to say, if you feel this is close enough that it's something you can work with, then that, to me, as a board member, just what you said, I would vote to approve on those conditions, just to defer to you here.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I'm not going to speak for Ben.
Okay, so what they're looking for is a side yard setback variance for the driveway. Obviously we can grant that, but the exact location being subject to a submittal to our engineer and our planner as to the existing conditions with correct measurements, and the exact location of the driveway. It's going to be approximately this, but the exact location is to be determined and approved administratively by Jim or Ben. We can do that if the board is comfortable with that.
And I'm looking at, the more I look at this picture, and I'm looking where the curb cut is, the curb cut, according to the survey, is 4 feet beyond the property line. And the trees seem to be beyond the curb cut. So those trees may be 5 feet off of the property line. So I think the key is to locate those trees as they relate to the property line, and then come up with a location of the driveway.
You had me at, you'll review it and you feel comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Any other board comments or questions? Okay, if you can stop sharing now, please.
Yeah.
And are there any comments or questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, if we can have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion, subject to the conditions that Mark described, if he wants to lay them out.
Well, no, we're doing the, just closing the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'll save
I'll
that.
second.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, and Mark, will you give us the full
Well,
summary?
Yeah, it's basically, they're requiring a side yard setback for the driveway, 5 feet required. I think it's 1 to 0, isn't it? And it's going to be subject to the applicant submitting a dimension plan for the proposed driveway as indicated in A1 and showing the location of the trees with the exact location of the driveway or the shape and setbacks of the driveway to be administratively determined by either or both our planner or engineer.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there a motion for positive resolution?
I'll make a
Make a
motion
motion.
for positive resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, and good luck, Ms. Weiner.
Thank you.
Our next case is Janet and Joseph Gindi, block 25.34, lot 3.02, 403 Brookside Avenue, Ocean, Zone R4. It's an application to construct a 650 square foot one-story addition and a second floor addition over an existing deck. Variances are required for building in a floodplain as well as maximum building coverage and maximum impervious coverage. The attorney for the applicant is Jennifer S. Krimko. And Ms. Krimko, will you?
Good evening, Madam Chair. I think this might be the first time we had a Madam Chair for this board. So
Good
welcome.
evening.
Jennifer Krimko on behalf of the applicant. I'm happy to say that the 3 applications that I have right after another are probably the most simple that I have had. This one in particular, its variances related only to conditions on the site, meaning we are entirely in a flood zone. So we need a variance for anything. And since we're entirely in a flood zone, we have no buildable lot area. So that would mean that there is no impervious coverage allowed or building coverage allowed. The good news is that if we were not in a flood area, this project would completely conform. So the variances are only related to the fact that we are in a flood area. So I can move some things into evidence and then.
Why don't we, Shawanda's gonna offer the packet as B1.
Yeah, I was gonna
I was
suggest.
ready
that.
this time. I was so ready.
Did not
I'm
mean to
sorry.
take that from you.
We got that in as B1.
Yes.
Okay,
then-
okay. A1 would be the survey dated 6/10/21. A2 is the plot plan dated 12/9/21. A3 is the architectural plan dated 1/5/22.
All of which we have in our packets, I believe.
That's correct. I have no additional evidence.
Okay.
And I would just ask Amy that while Jim and Ben are giving their
It's
reports.
already done. It's already done. It's already done.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Amy. Your voice got very deep.
It did.
Tim,
Okay,
Ms. Krimko actually summarized my report perfectly.
okay,
Just so the board understands on the issue, first of all, the issue of hazardous areas. The purpose is to assure that what is being done is safe. In that regard, I will punt to Ben because it's an engineering issue rather than a planning issue. And with regard to the coverage for impervious and building for the newer board members, the ordinance calculates that based on buildable lot area. And in determining buildable lot area, you subtract the environmentally sensitive areas from the total lot area and then calculate buildable lot area from what's left. And since the entire lot is an environmentally sensitive area, the buildable lot area is 0. So the impervious coverage and the building coverage as it exists now and as it proposed is theoretically infinite because you can't divide by 0. So, and if this were a lot that didn't have any environmental constraints, that what's being proposed would fully conform.
thank you. Mr. Matlack?
Thank you. So my only two comments are that there is a proposed pipe connection that is on lot 4, which is the adjacent lot next to this subject lot, which should not be allowed or is, should be allowed under an access agreement with the property owner. And that the number of smart vents shown on the plan, they have 4 smart vents where the ordinance requires 5 by the definition of the ordinance.
Well, I can stipulate, Ben, that we can eliminate the encroachment onto lot 4 and we can comply with your, we can comply with raising the air conditioning and pool equipment to the base flood as well as adding that additional smart vent. So, Ms. Beal, I can tell you that I have the engineer/planner here with me and I have the architect here with me. I'm not sure that they have anything to add other than what's been presented. So I will leave it to the board on a matter like this. If you have any questions or if you'd like me to put one of them on, but very simply, it's an otherwise conforming application, but for the fact that it's in a flood zone.
Okay, are there any questions from the board or comments from the board? Or is any additional information needed?
I do have a question. If the connection to that drainage structure on lot 4 is eliminated, where is the pipe going to be connected to or discharged to?
Right. Well, I was going to hope that my engineer could work that out with you if the board were to approve it, or I could have him sworn in and he can offer his suggestions now.
let's swear him in and just do that quickly.
Sure. I'd like to introduce Pat Ward. He already has his hand up.
Okay, Mr. Ward, well, first, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And have you testified before this board previously?
Yes, I believe I was here last month.
Okay.
I'm glad he was so memorable, Madam Chair.
Well, I wasn't one of the big applications that this board got through, so.
Okay.
All right. Pat, you heard the question from Ben, and I know you and I discussed in advance. What would your proposed solution be if we're not going to tie into lot 4?
I would have some sort of overflow drainage, Ben, towards that, on this Brookside Drive neighborhood, there's this big pond in the rear. We would have some sort of overland flow like the rest of the property is directed to. We can eliminate the hard pipe connection underground. So that's something you and I can go through and we can come up with a solution that I think will be agreeable to both of us and the applicant.
Okay. Do you know where that pipe, that inlet drains to? Does it drain out to the back?
I believe it does, and I believe there might be an easement. That's why we offered it initially, but I believe there's an easement, not from our property to that inlet, but I believe there's a easement that straddles our, I think it's the westerly property line, if I'm not mistaken, that goes to that pond in the back.
Okay. Yeah, Madam Chair, I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Since it's in a floodplain, does it require DEP approval or some type of state approval?
It actually does. We do have our letter, we do have our verification and our letter of interpretation, and it's a permit by rule. Is that correct, Patrick?
Yeah, we have a wetlands letter of interpretation. We do have, it's a permit by aspects of the project are permit by rule, and then the actual building addition is a permit by certification, which we've obtained from the DEP. So we're happy to provide that documentation.
Yeah, why don't you send it in?
Absolutely.
I think we may have, Mark, but I'm
Okay,
happy to send
fine.
another copy. I probably submitted it with the application.
That's it, Ben. I think Ben should have that stuff, right, Ben?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, we'll get it to him. That's fine.
Any other comments or questions?
What
From the
what
board.
what are we putting? What are we adding? A bedroom, a bath? What are,
Second, I can pull up the architectural plans. We're adding a deck and looks like, yes, a bedroom.
so the deck is on the first one and the bedroom's on the second floor?
Now, there's a first floor that is going to have in it a study, a laundry, and a playroom and a bathroom. And on top of that is a deck. And then the second floor addition is a bedroom that will then be over, it'll become a covered porch.
They're building
Here.
on two sides.
Right
The
here.
back and the back and the side, Mark.
Got it.
So this is the addition on the first floor where my cursor is.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of it is just going to be an open deck.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second floor, see how there's roof here? That's the proposed covered. That's going to be this bedroom.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, comments or questions from the public?
That would be me.
Okay, will you please state your name and your address?
Norma Rothschild, 409 Brookside.
Okay, and do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I was concerned with where the water was going into the brook. More water is going to be exiting towards the brook. I know we have an easement between the two properties that belong to Ocean Township. Is that shown on the plan there? That there is an easement between the two of us? On my side and on their side?
Which lot are you, Ms. Rothschild? Lot 4 or lot 3.01?
I'm lot 4.
Okay, you're lot 4.
So lot 4, and it's right where they're putting that extension?
Yes, there's a drainage easement. Yes, it is shown on the plan. Can you see the screen?
I know where it is. I've been through it. So I know.
No, I
exactly
want
where-
to show you that it's on the plan right here.
Yes, I saw it I did see it on the plan. I did. But now I just heard something about water going into the brook.
No.
So maybe you can clarify that for me.
Yeah, so what the testimony was, originally it was going to tie into a drainage pipe on lot 4, but since we don't have an easement over to your lot, instead it was going to do what most is, it's going to be kept on site with a pop-up that would do an overflow, just like when it comes out of rain gutters. Is that an accurate description, Patrick?
Yes, that is.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to see any more water going into the brook than already is, because that affects me and what comes out of that brook. I mean, I just want to know that there's no more water going in from the laundry room and from that other room into that area.
I mean, ultimately, any water from your property and this property will ultimately always end up in the brook. That's where it flows. That's why the brook exists. Correct, Patrick?
That's correct. If you're referring to the brook to the south, yes. The whole property and that pond in the rear ultimately gets into the brook, and the flood hazard area is a result of that brook.
Okay.
And we're
not.
Go ahead. We're not going to do anything that's going to have any discernible addition of water to that brook in any way that would have any impact on Ms. Rothschild.
Okay, I appreciate it.
No, I'm asking that question for the expert.
Yeah, could Patrick answer that question?
I can, no, there's no significant increase in runoff that would impact the brook or the 100-year design flood elevation from that brook.
Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I will move to close the public hearing only.
I'll second.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, and Mark, will you please summarize for
Yeah,
us?
the applicant's asking for a variance to construct in the floodplain. The house already exists in the floodplain. Can't change that situation. They're asking to expand it. And secondly, they exceed maximum building coverage and maximum impervious coverage, both of which are 0, because when we calculate the entire lot, it is all in the floodplain, so none of the area can be used to calculate either the building coverage or the impervious coverage. Had this been a regular lot without the flood hazard situation, the house would be totally conforming, so there wouldn't be any problems. There's no other required bulk variances either. And our engineers feel that the design is adequate and will not substantially affect the drainage in the area.
And will someone offer for a positive resolution?
There would be a condition that the final drainage is, and all of the requirements set forth in Ben's letter are going to be a condition of approval, together with all final drainage to his final approval.
Okay,
I'll move that.
I'll second that.
okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Krimko, I was going to say have a good night, but you're not going anywhere.
Now, and this one hopefully is going to be even quicker.
Now, I have, just one second, I have Morris and Michelle Beanham, but I
Yeah,
don't see that's.
I'm not listed on that, but I am the attorney for that.
Okay, okay, so the next case is Morris and Michelle Beanham. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Block
Benham.
40 Benham, okay, block 44, lot 2, 210 Parker Avenue, Ocean, Zone R2. This is an application to demolish an existing 2-story dwelling and construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling. This lot is pre-existing, non-conforming for lot size. And the attorney for the applicant, Jennifer
And good
Krimko.
evening again, Jennifer Krimko on behalf of the applicant. This is an undersized lot case where the lot is slightly undersized, and as a result, a construction of a new home requires a variance. I did send letters to the neighbors on either side, mostly because Mark was involved in a Supreme Court case as to just this issue for Ocean Township. I think it was Supreme, definitely appellate division. And to demonstrate that there is a hardship. So I just have a few things to move into evidence, but I'll allow you to move your packet in first.
Yes, Amy, will you please mark here
Yes.
the plans and as A1? No, I'm sorry,
No, the board packet.
the whole packet. I'm sorry.
Okay, and I-
B1, right?
Technically be B1, okay.
Why can't
And
I
I-
find it?
I did send these over to Amy in advance, so you'd have them. So A1 is a letter that I sent certified return receipt dated February 2nd, 2022 to the owners of lot 3. A2 is the same letter, but to the owners of lot 1, and those are the 2 lots adjacent on either side. A3 is the survey dated 7/28/20. A4 is the plot plan dated 10/5/21. And A5 is the architectural plan dated 9/3/21. I can tell you before they read the reports that we can comply with Ben's report in its entirety. He did correctly make note that we inadvertently had some grading in a flood hazard area. We can regrade the property to eliminate that. So that is no longer an issue, and we can comply with the remainder of his report.
Let me just explain one thing to the new board members. If this house is on a lot that's pre-existing, that's undersized, and the house could be developed. If you're going to knock the house down, then you wind up with an undersized lot. And in order to develop an undersized lot, you would then, the case law basically indicates that you need to offer it for sale to either the adjacent property owners or for fair market value, by the way, which is its current value as if a variance was granted to build a house. So it's not a bargain price. It's the going real estate value for a piece of property. Alternatively, you need to ask the neighbors on either side if they would like to sell you a part or all of their, well, part of their property in order to make you a conforming lot. That's sort of a requirement that came out of case law to make sure that undersized lots weren't kept in the inventory if we could get rid of them. Ms. Krimko has done all the textbook requirements of sending those letters with the right wording and the right response card, basically, for the neighbors to respond. I assume you have received no responses.
That's correct. We can stipulate to it. And you know, we both know that even if they do respond, it's not dispositive, but certainly if they don't respond, then better. And I will just point out to the board, the minimum lot requirement is 22,500 square feet. We're at 21,875. So we're talking about under 1,000 square feet.
Extremely technical. I just want you to know about 30 years ago, there was somebody who wanted to do this, and the neighbor came up and said, "We'll buy it." Paid for full market value. And their attorney was Mr. Peter.
Oh, was it Peter Falvo?
Peter Falvo was the attorney. But, you know, that was a different instance. Do you remember that, Jim?
No.
Yeah, I know the people who bought the property, so they were, but whatever. The Snyders, and they bought it on, I forgot the street behind the camp.
Okay.
I remember what it was. But in any event, you've done, Ms. Krimko's done all the right textbook things, and the board would then have jurisdiction to grant the variances here. Maybe just, Jim, give us your fast report.
Very quickly.
I'm sorry, Shimon, I don't want to step on you.
No, that's okay. No, Jennifer was stealing my thunder. No,
Okay.
It's eliminating, first of all, non-conforming residence with regard to front yard setback and the non-conforming driveway that actually extends onto an adjacent property. And everything else conforms except for the lot area. And quite frankly, I've been doing this for 45 years, and I couldn't look at that lot until it's not 22,500 square feet. You know, the difference is so minimal, and everything else conforms, so I have absolutely no problem with it.
Mr. Matlack?
Madam Chair, as Ms. Krimko mentioned, I had some concerns about work within a regulated area. There is a soil erosion permit that's required by the applicant, as well as they're proposing grading within a flood hazard area. I did have a conversation with the applicant's engineer leading up to this meeting, and we did discuss that, and they indicated they could revise the plan, as Ms. Krimko talked about. And the rest of my comments are mostly technical regarding materials, details, things like that, as well as a number of trees to be removed. And those are the only issues I had.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from the board?
I have a question. The footprint of the house being built is going to be the same as the house?
No, it's going to be larger. And if I can just share my screen so you could see, I think you have it. So that's the existing house on the survey. And That's the proposed house. So it's in relatively the same location. It's slightly bigger, the deck is smaller, and then architecturally, that's what the house will look like. But again, it fully conforms.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, and if we can have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
and Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, and Mark, will you summarize for us?
The only variance that they need is to the undersized lot, which is short by about 100 square feet, maybe less, or 125 square feet. That's the only thing, and she's offered it to the neighbors. They're not interested in buying or selling, and no other variances are required, and they've agreed to comply with all of Ben's requirements in his letter. And they're improving the existing condition by moving the house for the front yard setback to comply, and the driveway, which is partly on someone else's property, will no longer be there.
Okay, thank you. Is there a positive resolution?
I'll make a motion for a positive resolution.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
That was everyone. Okay, thank you. Our next case, IL Development LLC, Block 20, Lot 4, 87 Monmouth Road, Ocean, Zone R2. This is an application to demo a non-conforming dwelling and construct a new conforming dwelling with variance for minimum lot size, 22,500 square feet required and 20,065 square feet existing, and change of grade of 2 feet or more. And Ms. Krimko.
Good evening again, Jennifer
If we can
Krimko,
mark
the
the-
applicant. It's almost the same exact application. Everything-
Shawanda wanted to mark the packet. I heard that.
I was just giving an
Okay.
opening statement, but okay.
We forget to do that sometimes. That's the only thing. So, right? We're gonna mark the packet, Amy?
Yes, I got it.
Thank you.
May I,
Go ahead, Jen.
Madam Chair? All right, thank you.
Yes.
I think we all see this driving up and down Monmouth Road. It's a vacant lot just to the north of the church. And there was a house set all the way in the back that has since been demolished, and there's a big dip now in the back as you drive by. So what we're looking to do is just even out the backyard and construct a fully conforming single-family home on the property. So again, A1 is the letter to offer to sell to the adjacent property on lot 4. A2 is the same letter to lot 2. A3 is a survey dated 1/4/21. A4 is a plot plan dated 10/6/21. A5 is an architectural plan dated 10/7/21. And then lastly, A6 is a new one, Amy, which I'll email you and I'll put up on my screen, is an aerial with a color rendered plot plan. And I'll wait to introduce my witness until.
Jim?
Okay, yeah, there's two variances. Apparently, there's a variance for changing the grade more than 2 feet. I don't have a problem with that, but I think it needs to be explained, and I would defer to Ben really as far as the details on that, if he has any engineering concerns. And then again, you have another issue where you have a minimum lot area. It's over 20,000 square feet. And again, the lot width and the lot depth do conform. And somebody, again, looking at it, you couldn't tell that it's not a fully conforming lot. And they're putting a house on it that in terms of setbacks, in terms of coverage, in terms of height, it conforms to all the requirements of the ordinance.
Yeah, just Jennifer said that the house was taken down.
Yeah, there was
I
a house on there that was substantially non-conforming in
Okay.
terms of its setbacks, and there was also an accessory structure that was non-conforming.
But your
Both
report
those
says
were-
it's current, but your report says it's currently occupied. by
Well,
a-
My
it may
report
have-
says that there was a
It
residence
may
there.
have been there. It
Yeah.
may have been there, Jim, when you wrote the report.
It may very well.
Okay.
It was on the,
It's
sur- it
written-
was also on the survey.
It was recently demolished.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Anything else, Mr. Higgins?
Nope.
Okay, Mr. Matlack?
Thank you. So my report identified a couple of things. The applicant should identify the fencing material for pool compliance. It looks like a few permits are required from the Freehold Soil Conservation District, as well as Monmouth County road opening permit. That's the responsibility of the applicant. Not really anything the board has to worry about, but I just want to point that out. If any trees should be removed, that should be specified. It looks like there are two separate sanitary sewer laterals on the plan. I'd just like some clarification on that for the reasoning. And it looks like the stormwater is being directed, or grading is pushing stormwater more towards the properties in the rear than what was there originally. So I'd like some clarification on that, what the applicant's plan is for mitigation on that. And also some discussion on the changing grade in excess of 2 feet. I believe the applicant was trying to modify the drainage areas to push some water towards the road, which is preferred than pushing it towards the neighboring lots. So if we can hear from the applicant's engineer about that, that'll provide that testimony.
Thank you. So if I could reintroduce Patrick Ward and have him re-sworn for this hearing.
Okay, Mr. Ward, do you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please continue.
You do remember, Madam Chair, he was just here a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Okay.
Trying to leave an impression this time.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to put the exhibit back up, and having heard the issues that Ben raised, if you could just go through them, please, and address them.
Absolutely. Yeah, so just for background, this is the house and the coverages, including building and impervious, are compliant. All the setbacks are compliant. Ben, in terms of the two sewer laterals, it's actually a misprint. One of them is a gas line, or intended to be a gas line. So we only will have one sewer lateral. We agree with your county permit requirements. We have the freehold soil approval for this development. And to address just the fill and the drainage concern that you raised, Ms. Krimko stated it perfectly that the property right now at the center rear is a dip, a noticeable dip where it's a couple feet down at from the rest of the property at the center rear of the property. So we're looking to fill that in and flatten it out. Now, one of the things we included on our plans for drainage is to demonstrate how the proposed condition is actually reducing runoff to neighboring properties. And how we're achieving that is by sending half of the roof runoff and all of the front yard and driveway towards Monmouth Road, whereas we're leaving the rest of the property to continue, as you could see on this aerial, off to the east. In the existing conditions, and this is even before the house was knocked down that was there, all of the property pitched from the backside of the curb, backside of the sidewalk, I should say, towards the east, towards the neighbors. So something we typically do, our office does for, we'll say, compliant single-family plot plans for the township to demonstrate the pre and post development drainage characteristics using the rational method. We'd be happy to work with you as a condition of approval to your satisfaction to ensure, no increased impacts to any neighbors as a result of the application from a drainage perspective.
Okay, yeah, my concern is that you have, it looks like the north of the pool, there's a pop-up drain, overflow yard drain. And is that the only area where you have infiltration? You
Yeah,
have some in
yes,
the front,
that's,
but in the rear yard, is that, it looked like it was only like a 18 by 18 sump right there.
so that is, there's a linear drain along the rear patio that is discharging as an overflow there. That's the only, we'll call it point discharge in the rear yard. The rest of it is to be discharged towards the front. But that's only, capturing a very small area of the rear patio between edge of pool and the new home. So the rest of it, as you can see on the sides, is going to be landscaped lawn or plantings, which is similar to how it is today in terms of, not improved with impervious coverage.
Is the pool runoff going to be captured in that? I guess it's a small little trench drain there along the house.
Yes, so about half, really the area between the pool and the rear facade of the home is going to be collected in that linear drain. Everything else will be sheet flow off towards the grass areas.
Okay, I think maybe a little increase in the capacity of storage underground to allow more recharge would improve that situation. I don't really have an issue with it, being that you're collecting a lot of the impervious surface that you're adding and trying to infiltrate it.
Yes, and I think the important part here is that we're proposing, as you could see, a decently sized driveway, and we're proposing to have that directed fully towards Monmouth Road. And the front roof leaders will be collected and discharged in that direction as well. So, that was the goal here, was to certainly not increase any runoff to any of our neighbors. So that's typically how the township handles, even compliant applications. They're very particular about that, and rightfully so.
And Patrick, are we removing any trees?
It's indicated on our plan. There's an existing conditions view. There's one tree in the center of the property towards the front that's being removed. That's indicated on there, and we are proposing the 3 street trees that were on the rendering. So we will be replacing it. We tried to avoid that. We tried to have the driveway wrap around that, but it just wasn't quite working with keeping to the setbacks for everything else. So we will replace that one tree, as you can see, with the 3 street trees.
Okay, and then finally, your plan does show a pool compliant fence, correct?
It does. We show a detail for a 4-foot aluminum fence, the Jareth style, as you can see.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the?
Yeah, I have a question. Jim, could you bring up do we need another variance for the width of the driveway in the front yard?
No.
Jim, you're muted.
Jim, you're muted.
Yeah,
You're
sorry
muted.
about that. I was just looking at the ordinance because I looked at that. I think there's a technical variance for the width of the driveway in the front yard. The prior zoning officer, and I'm assuming the current zoning officer, would look at this as the driveway being wider than 20 feet because
Yeah.
you measure parallel to the street, it's wider than 20 feet.
So can you, what section of the ordinance is that?
Wait. Jim, where are you talking about?
What?
Across here.
Yeah, if you measure the driveway parallel to the street line, the zoning officer in the past, and I'm sure the current zoning officer, will continue to look at that as more than 20 feet wide.
No, as I understand it, and again, as Kate did it, and I'm assuming the new zoning officer did, it's a 20-foot equilateral triangle.
I've never heard that.
They actually have that because
Who is they?
Kate and
Okay.
Marianne before her. So
my suggestion is, if you want to get this through tonight, is amend to request that variance. It's a technicality.
Okay.
You're allowed to have 2 accesses to the street. And I know Kate has looked at this type of thing in the past. I've sat with her and she said it requires a variance.
Variance,
So maybe
yeah.
she changed her opinion. I don't know.
Well, then we're not gonna lose any sleep over. What is the section? What's the section of the ordinance?
I had just had to close that part of my,
Yeah, we'll get that later, but it was always my understanding that if within the front yard setback is a portion of the driveway that's wider in width than 20 feet, you need a variance. And
Right,
we've
but
done those many
okay.
times for circular.
Right, so I'm just
It's
asking, so every time there's a circular driveway, you need that variance?
It depends how far back the circuit. What's this front yard setback here?
50 feet.
What's-
it's 50.
The whole
50.
driveway's in the front yard.
Yeah, so that, to me, that you got portions of that driveway
Yeah.
that are wider in width than 20 feet. It's a technical variance. You want to amend your application and you're
Yes,
covered
well-
by your
Right.
notice.
I
You know,
will
and-
amend the application.
I will give you the
Not-
section right now. It's 21-45.12A.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, we've granted a number of quite often for the horseshoe driveways. And so, and that just, I saw it, and I'm not that technical. So
Yeah.
I think that, so that it doesn't come up later.
Yeah.
And somebody's gonna pick this up and say, well, you needed a variance for that. Ms. Krimko, I think you're asking for it, right?
Yes, I am.
And we would
And the
amend
two
the application.
the two accesses are permitted.
Yeah, it's just,
Single family zone, you can have two driveways,
yeah, I mean, this was a 30-foot front yard setback and your driveway is beyond the 30 feet, the width area, but this is because it's a horseshoe driveway and I think it should be included in your request. And if the board deems to grant all the other variances, they would grant this one too.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, there's a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
I'll second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what the applicant is requesting is a variance for moving, changing of grade for more than 2 feet. Their engineer advises there's a dip in the middle of the property that needs to be flattened. So in order to do that, they need to bring in soil or move soil in order to flatten that. But our engineer has no problem with that. Also, the minimum lot area is similar to the prior application. This is an undersized lot. Once they took the building down, they need to request a buyer sell from the adjacent neighbors. That was properly done and with no responses or objections. So that variance is to have the minimum lot area slightly smaller. Looks like about less than 10% or about approximately 10% than required. And thirdly, it's my understanding that the driveway width at a certain point in the front yard is more than 20 feet. And the applicant has requested and asked for, at our encouragement, a variance for that, which the board would grant for the horseshoe driveways. For the new members, when they send out a notice, they tell the adjacent property owners and put in the paper what they want. They may have said, in this case, the soil removal and the undersized lot, but there's a catch-all phrase that says, and any other additional variances that the professionals or the board or maybe found at the hearing to be necessary. And this is one of those. So the notice would cover this additional variance, even though not specifically named. So if the board is inclined to grant all those variances, the proper case has been made for them.
Okay, will someone offer?
I'll make a motion to grant those variances as described by Mark.
Subject, all subject to Ben's final approval and his letter.
I'll include that in the motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Tallarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm sure everybody's happy to know that I bid you good night.
Aye.
Enjoy the rest of the night. Take care.
Good night.
Our next case, Tara Duffy, Block 85, Lot 5, 1116 Grassmere Avenue, Ocean Zone R6. This is an application to construct a second floor addition on a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling. 30 feet is required and 25.05 feet exists. Ms. Duffy? Yes, you're there. Okay. Will you please state your name and your address?
Tara Duffy, 1116 Grassmere Avenue, Monmouth.
Okay, and will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and Amy, I believe we have a packet. Yes, if we can mark that, B1.
Okay.
Okay, and Mr. Higgins, will you please give us your report?
Surely. Well, according to the applicant's application, they want to raise the roof. So I guess they want to have a party. Specifically, what they want to do is put a second story on a house that actually technically, because again, the way the ordinance reads, and because this is a bi-level type of house, it technically becomes a third story. They need two variances. The first is a minimum front yard setback. The existing front yard setback is 25.02 feet and 30 feet is required. What they're proposing to do is to extend that vertically. They're not moving into the front yard anymore. It's still going to be 25.02 feet, but it's going up. I don't really have a problem with that. And then again, you have the issue with the number of stories. And as we heard on the earlier application tonight, when you have the bi-levels, it doesn't quite fit very neatly into the ordinance. And I really don't have a problem at all with the granting of the variance, them expanding the house. The coverage is approximately 2/3 of what is permitted. So it's a smaller house anyway, to begin with.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Matlock.
and the one minor thing is that the architectural plans mistakenly identify the east side and the west side of the house as north and south respectively. In order to avoid confusion in the future, I think they should be amended.
Okay, Mr. Matlock.
Chair, the only thing that I had was on the existing plan, there is a shed shown in the backyard, and on the proposed, that's the area of improvements to the house. Just want some clarification on if the shed's going to be relocated, and if it were rebuilt or replaced, and will it conform with the ordinance. Other than that, I don't have any other concerns.
Okay, Ms. Duffy, if you will address the your request and the concerns or questions about the shed.
Sure.
Do we swear her in?
I did in the beginning when she stated her name and her address.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, currently we really don't have a plans to put in another shed, but you know, if and when we do, it obviously will conform with anything, you know, that needs to be.
Is this one coming down?
Yeah, I mean, currently it's attached to the back porch, which will become, you know, inside of the house. So yeah, that shed will go away.
So you're going to remove the shed? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Why don't she testify as to what she plans to do and what she's going to put into the second floor, third floor, whatever that is.
Okay, currently it's actually like 2 rooms up there, but the ceiling height slants down on the one side, you know, towards the front of the house. So we would raise the roof to be able to have full ceiling height, and it will become a bedroom, a closet, and a bathroom.
Okay, this is basically the attic.
Yeah, the front part of that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and over the main living area.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and it'll have a separate stair access.
It does now, yes. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Will the, you're gonna finish it with a new roof over the whole house?
Yeah, yeah.
And the addition is gonna match, the siding and everything, whatever you're gonna be doing?
We're planning on doing new siding, new windows, the whole deal.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any questions or comments from the board?
So the bedroom exists now and you're just literally just lifting the roof is what you're doing, correct?
Well, we're lifting it all the way up, yes. So it'll be like a cathedral ceiling in the front part.
Okay, but the bedroom, it's not, you're not adding a bedroom, the bedroom exists.
It does. I mean, it's not considered a bedroom because there's no closet currently, but yeah. But the construction's already there, yes.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, if we can have a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner. Mr. Van Wagner.
I said yes 3
Oh.
times.
Oh, sorry, you're
No,
you're
no, I'm
muted.
on mute, sorry.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mark, will you?
Yeah, the applicant's asking for 2 variances. The first one being the minimum front yard setback. It's just a somewhat technical variance since they're going up horizontally, right? Horizontally, they're going up. Then the front yard setback sort of goes up with it. It's existing, it's over the same house. And there's nothing that's going to really change. He also, in Jim's report, he mentions that the setback and the 3rd floor situation is similar to the house next door. So, there's nothing adverse about it. And of course, the number of stories, as we've done earlier this evening, when you put that story above the existing story, it becomes a technical variance for a 3rd story. But the house does not exceed the 30 feet permitted. It's about still 28.5 feet. So that's the second variance that they need.
Okay, and someone offer positive resolution?
I'll offer.
I'll second.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. DeGenaro,
Yes.
Mr. Puglielli.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And Ms. Duffy, wish you the best of luck and have a good evening.
Great, thank you, you too.
I believe this is the last case, Chris and Jen Beeman, Block 78, Lot 1, 1024 Bendermere Ave, Ocean Zone R6. This is an application to construct a 6-foot-high fence on the front property line on a corner lot with a variance for fence height in the front yard. 3 feet permitted, 6 feet is requested. And do we have Mr. Or Ms. Beeman here? Yes, Mr. Beeman, can you please state your name, your address?
Chris Beeman, 1024 Bendermere Avenue, Wanamassa.
Okay, and do you raise your right hand, please? And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth?
Swear to tell the truth.
Thank you. And Mr. Higgins?
Yeah, for the newer board members, these corner lot fence applications come before the board fairly frequently. And what the board has normally done is not allow the fence, the 6-foot fence, to be on the front property line, to require it to be set back, usually 15 feet. In this instance, the length of fence is not that long. And I think the board, if the board so desired, they could let it be set back 10 feet and then require some landscaping between the fence and the front property line to soften the impact. The only point I'd make to the board is the application that I saw anyway did not include a detail of the fence, so I'm not quite sure what kind of fence it's going to be, whether it's going to be a white vinyl fence, whether it's going to be a wooden board-on-board fence. I think the board needs some information as to the type of fence. And again, because of the corner lot situation, I do believe some relief is required, but not to put it right up on the front property line.
Okay, Mr. Matlack?
Chair, my only concern is that there is an existing shed in the front yard, and it looks like it's attached to a walkway. And this is the front yard of Maple Avenue. I'd just like some clarification on how that impacts, gate location, or if there are going to be any changes to the walkway location to make sure you can navigate around the shed.
Hey, Mr. Beeman, can you please tell us about?
Yep, I'll address the shed is no longer there. That was from a survey when the shed was there. That shed is long since been taken down, and I have a new shed, permitted shed in the other corner of the property. As far as the 10-foot recommendation, there are various properties all around my neighborhood. I think you probably have what I sent in the packet that you are all in possession of. I sent some images. 4 specific properties that are all within 1 mile of my house that probably have exactly what I'm asking for. There already are trees there, so the fence view would be softened by landscaping already. There's no sidewalk on that section of street from my property to the street. It's 10 feet to the street, so there's a decent section of grass cut there as it is right now.
Okay, and Amy, can we please mark that packet B1? And I heard you mention I have a question. Heard you mention the landscaping. Did you address the fence as far as the type? I'm sorry, I may have missed.
I sent an example over, so it's just a white vinyl fence, 6-foot solid white vinyl fence. Standard, but you see, many houses have it.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other statements regarding your request?
What do you need it for?
Keep the dog in, dog, kids, privacy.
I think I think the examples that you're showing us are also set back. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, it looks like they're a setback. But the problem is, just because they exist in the neighborhood doesn't mean that they're legal. He may be inadvertently ratting out his neighbors, because the board never permits fences on a corner lot. So I've never seen them permit a fence on a corner lot on the property line. Usually it's 15 feet back.
The neighbor behind me has he has a fence that's existing already. And when you measure in to the 15 feet and then to the 10 feet to install a fence inside of that, it certainly won't be as pleasing to the eye as one that matches up right next to it.
Mr. Higgins, if I heard you correctly, did you say that what was the 10 feet?
Be 10 feet from the property line to the fence. And that would allow landscaping to soften the visual impact. A white vinyl, 6-foot high white vinyl fence is pretty glaring, quite frankly. And you would want something along that fence to soften it somewhat. So you need landscaping. You can't put the landscaping out within the right of way. It has to be on the applicant's property line. That's why I said 10 feet. Because it's a short distance, I don't think the 15 feet is absolutely necessary. Normally, the board would require 15 feet.
Okay, are there other questions or comments from the board?
I had one for our professionals, and Jim, you started to address it. So do we have any traffic concerns in terms of if we're trying to consider some relief within the setback? You talked about 10 feet even possibly.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything, with sight lines and either?
No, it's at the back of the lot. It's probably about 75 feet off of Maple Avenue or off of Bendemeer.
So we don't have to worry about any.
I don't have any concerns with site triangles.
I'm sorry, I am having trouble hearing Mr. Matlack, so I couldn't hear what he said.
But yeah, I don't have any concerns with the site triangle or visibility at the intersection.
Oh, and those are some things that, we as board members with corner lots and fences have, seen or heard concerns of before, and those are really big to me because of, obvious safety.
Are you testifying that block 78 lot 20, which is right behind you, has a fence on Maple Avenue?
It's a 4-foot chain link fence. He has a fence right on the property line.
Well, chain link, well,
Agreed, I understand that.
when you go to a solid fence, we allow up to 4 feet see-through, don't we?
Yeah, that's a conforming fence.
That's conforming.
But because it's solid, it has to be no more than 3 feet high.
Can I ask another
My
question?
point that I was making along that, as far as that goes with his fence, was if I install a fence that's pushed in 10 feet or 15 feet from his fence, it won't look as good as a fence that lines directly up with his fence.
Yeah.
And there's I've talked with him and he's on board with what I was planning to do, and he was planning to have his back fence become my fence. And if I had it 10 feet in, that wouldn't work.
Well, unless you want to go to a chain link fence just along Maple Avenue and put the shrubs behind it, right? Jim, that works?
Yeah,
The fences don't match anyway.
yeah, the fences, it's gonna look very awkward
Right.
either way.
Other questions or comments?
So these fences are a distance off of the street, right? And there's no, as I'm looking at the picture, sidewalk there. What if we did something like allowed for this fence, but if the street was widened, he would then have to move the fence?
Well, the problem is it's going to be a 6-foot high, bright white fence that's going to have substantial visual impact. And the board's position in the past has always been that when you have something like that, they want it softened by landscaping. And you can't put the landscaping within the street right away. It has to be on the applicant's property. That's why I suggested 10 feet instead of 15 feet, because the 10 feet will be sufficient to put landscaping.
Well, there is landscaping there.
Landscaping is there.
As I look at the picture. And this board has approved many things that I would say maybe it shouldn't have in the past. So I don't necessarily think we have to, the past doesn't have to always dictate what we do now. I'm just saying, if we were to do something with the condition that if the road changed or a sidewalk was put in, he would then be responsible. I would
trying to see the picture.
Okay with it.
You're talking about with the landscaping being there.
Yeah, me too.
Because there's a lot of pictures here and I can't tell.
So there's two, if I'm looking at the right, there's 2 pictures. There are 2 pages of pictures, one with, I'm assuming the one without labels on the pictures are all the applicant's property.
That's correct.
So that landscaping is within the street right away. And it's not supposed to be there. It's illegal.
So does that need to be removed as a condition?
Well, that would be up to the township, I think. I'll let Mark make that decision. It's illegal. It's a legal decision, but it's illegal. It's not supposed to be planted within the right of way.
Those trees are just outside the line.
Outside the
Put a
line.
string line on the property line.
But they're on the property line?
They're just outside the property line when I run a string across the property line.
Right,
And I
which is not
propose
your
to put
property, which is not your property. They would have to be moved back, yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I mean, we had the same situation on Deal Road where the gentleman put up row of hedges, trees. And we required that he be moved them.
And that may also be I don't know how the zoning officer would look at that as to whether they would consider that a solid hedge, which again is not permitted. Even if it was on his property, it wouldn't be permitted. And I don't know how the zoning officer would look at that.
Did the zoning officer already look at this though?
I don't know if he's looked at the.
I don't understand how, when people come and suddenly there's more stuff coming at him.
Yeah, the problem is he doesn't have a survey, John, showing exactly where these trees are. So we're assuming by looking at it now and describing, he's telling us the neighbor in the back has his chain link fence right on the line, right, Jim? So that if you bring that line down, now you can see that his shrubs are not, if that line goes straight, then it would be in the right of way. He doesn't show anything on the survey. The survey, he just took the survey and put the yellow line on it. So we don't know exactly all this location. We're assuming.
I've got a question, which would be, I don't think that the planner would have any concerns if this were a chain link fence, a 4-foot chain link fence. It's the white, bright.
Well,
that's what I said.
Solid 6-foot high fence.
Right.
Yeah.
Just so, I'll just read, there's 10 feet between the curb and the property line. And the ordinance states that along all public streets, landscaping within 10 feet of the proposed right-of-way line or within 15 feet of the proposed curb, whichever is more restrictive, shall consist of sod only. Okay.
There's trees in that spot
It doesn't
all
apply to
across the
single-family
township.
residence. It doesn't apply to a single-family residence, so forget I just said that. But
People have trees in that area all around the township.
yeah, I know that. No, it doesn't apply to single families, so ignore the fact that I said that.
I mean, these trees, and if the board wants to approve this, that's fine, and the board does not have to condition this upon the trees being moved. Let the town come in and do that. But the question is, they can dictate where your fence has to be. So, if you want to run a chain link, you can do it on the property line.
But the point was, the issue raised is that the fence would need to be softened by landscaping. The landscaping exists.
But it's not your landscaping. You've given it to the town. They could chop it down tomorrow. It's not on your property. You can't control it.
They won't chop it down.
Well, we can take those chances, but they're not going to let you put a solid fence, from what I gather, less than 10 feet from your property line. So there'll be a nice gap there.
And Mr. Beaman, is the chain link fence is not an option?
I mean, it's not preferred because it's not I guess ultimately, if it was to be a chain link fence and those bushes grew up and gave me privacy, that would, I guess, satisfy my need. But if I need a variance for the bushes to be tall, then I would need that as well. If that's something that, it comes up out of this. I certainly would prefer the white fence, which will be muted by these green trees.
So Mark, can I ask you then,
I'll have 3 sides be one type of fence and one side be another type of fence.
Well, you still need a variance for the back of the fence, because the back of the fence is still in the front yard. So that variance you need. Not only is it not only is it the street front, it's the 90-degree angle part of the fence that's in the front yard also.
Yeah, the 30 feet of that fence. Yes.
Of that fence. So you need that variance too. So
I'm not following. I don't follow with the 30 feet of the back fence.
Okay.
Oh, the 30 feet going in.
Let Jim explain.
A second. You cannot have a 6-foot high fence within 30 feet of your property line. So where your fence turns, goes along the front street line that you're proposing,
Yeah.
where
So
it
it goes
turns to go along your
perpendicular.
backyard, the first 30 feet of that is not permitted either.
Okay, so I would,
Normally,
I mean,
the board requests that the fence be set back on a corner lot and the property owners agree to it. And quite frankly, I can't see any reason for not moving it back 10 feet and putting the landscaping where it belongs rather than on the public property.
And another alternative maybe is, and this would still require variance, but would you be able to step the fence down from 6 feet in the rear yard to 4 feet in the front yard? You would still need a variance because you can't have a solid 4-foot fence in the front yard.
Yeah.
It has to have a minimum 50% opening. But I've seen that done before, where you have 4 feet, and then once you get to 30 feet from your property line, it steps up to 6 feet. So you have some of that privacy. And like you said, the trees would mature in the future and give you a little more privacy.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize the whole thing. Because honestly, I didn't even realize, I was just thinking it was only the one on the Maple Avenue side, not on the back property line 30 feet in. And is that the front 30 feet into the front of the fence, which would be to the back of the house?
But Jim is suggesting that all of them be 10 feet from the property line. So that you could have, that's what Jim's suggesting, the one
Well,
on
the
Maple
front-
Avenue, 10 feet back. And then obviously that when it turns the corner, it would already be 10 feet back, and you could have it at 6 feet. That's what you're suggesting, Jim, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And it would still give you a substantial rear yard.
No, actually, it's reducing the back, that would reduce the back of the by size of the backyard by
Not, yeah, reduce it, we still have a substantial
20%,
rear yard.
25%.
No, you would have a rear yard that's 90 feet wide instead of 100 feet wide, a fenced-in rear yard.
I mean, I don't like that.
Is this, I guess if I'm just trying to understand this, it can either go forward as is with a vote, which may be voted down, and then there aren't any variances approved, or agree to some of the other options, and there is a chance that it could be approved, if I'm understanding that correctly.
And
Well, you
can I
can
add
put
in,
That's correct.
Chairman, I was gonna say, and I, there's another option sometimes too, and that is, and I'm just suggesting this, that maybe the applicant wants to carry it and think about this some more, because I know that from what I'm hearing, I don't know that I'm ready to vote yes on an application as is tonight. I'm just gonna be honest with you. We do not typically, and I want to accommodate every property owner as best we can within the parameters we have to follow, but a 6 foot high solid white fence that close to the property line, we do not approve. I mean, I've been on board 22 years and we just don't do it unless there are very extenuating circumstances. So where can we find that line where one side versus the other, wherever we can nip and tuck and try to help, maybe come to a reasonable compromise? I don't know if there's enough here for us to be comfortable on that.
There are also fence options that the top 2 feet could be
Right.
lattice work and slightly open and in the front.
Well,
So
and I
it's
know
not-
that, yeah, I was gonna say, I know
not
that
as in your face.
I didn't mean to step on. I was gonna say, I know the applicant, that like he could consider some of these things and maybe even get some thoughts tonight from us, because I don't know, I want to be honest, I don't know that I can comfortably say, yeah, I'm gonna vote yes on your application as is tonight. If it helps the process.
Yeah, so, I mean, Jim, what would you think about 4 feet and then 2 feet of lattice just in the front part and the rest going 6 feet?
Again, I think on the property line, the board has just, and this is up to the board has just never approved that on the property line.
Problem is that everybody in the area,
What?
everybody in the areas put their shrubs on right away.
Which honestly puts a sour taste in my mouth to have tried to go through this process the right way, to do this the right way. When I see people all over town that have it, and like I said, I'm trying to do it right. And if I had just put it up and not asked for any permission, I probably could have had it forever without anybody being wiser about it.
We've made people take them down.
Then what are the, okay, I don't want to gaslight anybody.
That's why you need a fence permit. Jim, what would you think about 4 feet solid and then the lattice on top?
On the property line?
Yeah, well,
Yeah. It wouldn't look much different.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have a question. Could we just push this off to the next meeting? Because this is a lot of going nowhere. You know, if they take a vote this evening, you know, I mean, Mr. Beeman, I think you need to look at your options. It seems to me from where I'm sitting, you've been thrown at least 10 different options, most of which you can't really visualize, you know. So perhaps, and I'm asking the board, if you're voted down this evening, you can't come back.
I understand. No, okay.
And to have other options and perhaps have a meeting with Jim and myself to try to, so that the board is comfortable and you're comfortable, because the way things are going presently, you know, I think too many options have been thrown your way, and I don't know necessarily if I'm sitting in your spot that I could visualize half of them.
The issue I'm having trouble understanding is, I understand the Maple Avenue frontage. I understand that being a front. I'm having difficulty understanding the true front, the Bendermere Avenue side of the fence versus the Rainier side, the back of my fence. 30 feet in, would they have to be 4 feet tapered up to 6 feet once it gets to 30 feet in on the front and the back of the fence?
There's.
When we discussed that
I don't
tapering up.
understand what you're saying.
You're looking.
Any portion of the fence that's within 30 feet of a front property line is required to be no higher than 3 feet if it's a solid fence without getting a variance. So there's nothing, none of your fences near Bendermere.
No, but it's near Maple Avenue and it's going perpendicular to Maple Avenue.
That's correct. That's correct. So 30 feet back, it would the ordinance requires it to be 3 feet high if it's going to be solid. It permits it to be 3 feet high. And the board has routinely granted variances for 6 foot high fences, but not within 15 feet of that property line. What I'm suggesting is, because it's a fairly short section of fence, it could probably go within 10 feet of that front property line. That would still give you an area that's 90 feet by approximately, it looks like it's 40 feet for a rear yard.
Yeah, I understand that for the parallel side to Maple Avenue, but the two perpendicular sides of the fence for the true back and the front of that also would have to be 3 feet as well, at least going 30 feet in.
Yeah.
Correct? Is that the way
right? So you would require a variance. So what I'm saying is, if you would push the fence back 10 feet from the property line, make it parallel to the property line 10 feet back, that the board could consider giving you the variance for the 6 foot high fence in all locations.
Mr. Beeman, is this something that you would like to think over? And
yeah, I'm gonna, I mean, I might consider other options. So I don't want to have you guys tell me no tonight and then it'd be dead. My wife is talking too, so I'm trying to listen to her.
she has to be sworn in, I believe.
Great, she has to be.
Okay. You want to get sworn in here, or you want to discuss this?
Can I get sworn in with COVID?
You just put your hand in the air and swear yourself in, or they'll swear you in.
I'm sorry. I have COVID.
You swear to tell the truth and the whole truth?
Do.
Okay, please speak.
No, just frustrating. You probably don't want me to be in this. No, that would just like decrease the back of our yard considerably. And I do agree with my husband that like the property lining and fences just wouldn't line up. It just wouldn't look pleasing. And my concern is just that, we, asked all our neighbors, how many, 30? Yeah. All were they were excited for it. They thought it would look great. And just the money spent on doing that with their approval is just frustrating.
I understand. and the board wants to, I guess, try to make it a win-win, but there are some certain parameters, I guess, that are of concern. So you have the right to go forward with a vote, knowing the consequences of that, or you have the right to have it carried and explore
Let's-
options and perhaps come back.
That'll be my choice. I'll vote to carry it and then maybe consider some other things and maybe I can.
You don't get a vote, but okay.
We understand what you were.
My choice would be to carry it, I guess, not my vote.
And then within the next month, you can speak to Ron and Jim can chime in and maybe we can find something that compromises everybody.
Okay, then that's what I would like to do.
So you can announce that it'll be carried to the next meeting without further public notice,
Yes, it will be carried to the next meeting without further. public
which is
notice.
March. We always
March
like to give the
17th.
date.
March
17th.
17th.
Yeah, and with no further note, you don't have to notify anybody. It's automatically carried to that meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beeman. Oh, I guess a motion to close the public.
Yeah.
Where's
Motion
your-
to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Oh, okay.
That's the last, we don't close the public hearing, we keep it open
Okay.
because he's coming back
Yeah.
and no further notice. But the next order of business would be a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait,
Second.
whoa. Thank you, Mr. Van Wagner, Vice Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Beal, for this evening. It was a great job. Thank you to the board members for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
Having
everybody.
done-
Good evening.
Yeah, having done this for so many years, for a rookie, Mrs. Beal, you did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Nice
it.
work.
Yeah,
Agreed.
all good.
Amy, B1, Amy,
Yeah,
B1.
Enter the
That's
C1.
nothing. You did great. See ya.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Right, good.